African states turned into dumping grounds for rejected migrants from the West. A growing number of African nations are facing criticism for signing controversial migration deals that effectively turn their territories into dumping grounds for rejected asylum seekers from Western countries. These arrangements, often framed as migration partnerships or relocation agreements, are drawing condemnation from human rights groups and policy experts who argue they compromise sovereignty, exploit economic desperation, and undermine human dignity. For example, the United Kingdom's Rwanda asylum deal has sparked global outrage. Under the plan, asylum seekers who arrive in the UK illegally are to be forcibly relocated to Rwanda, regardless of their nationality, for processing and potential resettlement. Critics, including the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, and numerous civil society organizations, have condemned the deal as morally indefensible and a violation of international refugee law. Yet, despite domestic opposition in the UK and legal challenges in Rwanda, similar models are being replicated by other European countries. Italy, for instance, signed a migration processing deal with Albania, and reports suggest Denmark has explored comparable arrangements with African states such as Tunisia and Egypt. These offshoring policies shift Europe's migration burden to poorer nations that are lured by financial incentives and promises of development aid. On the receiving end, some African governments justify these agreements as economic opportunities or diplomatic partnerships. However, many citizens view them as acts of surrender, trading national dignity for foreign cash. Countries like Niger, Libya, and Tunisia have already faced criticism for hosting EU-funded detention and processing centres, where conditions have been documented as inhumane and abusive. This growing trend reflects a disturbing imbalance in global migration governance. Wealthy Western nations are outsourcing their moral and legal responsibilities, while African states, struggling with debt and unemployment, accept roles as containment zones for unwanted migrants. The result is a deepening neo-colonial dynamic where African soil becomes the staging ground for Europe's political expediency rather than a platform for shared global responsibility. Until African leaders reclaim agency and refuse to commodify human lives in exchange for aid, the continent risks further entrenching itself as the West's dumping ground, not just for rejected migrants, but for compromised principles of justice and humanity. Join Diaspoint in addressing leadership challenges that hinder Africa's path to progress. Diaspoint, empowered by Africans in diaspora.